Aloha, I'm Marsha Joyner, and we are navigating the journey. Today is a very special day with a very special friend, and for those of you that are with me, you know I only talk to special friends. This friend goes back to 1971, maybe 72.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Like that.
Is that BC or AD?
But yeah, it's been a long time. This is John Waihee, governor, or former governor. John Waihee.
And I am so glad to be on your show. As a fellow host, I'm a guest. I feel honored,
Well, I'm honored. John and I have known each other that long. And so as we are now in the middle of people voting, we are going to talk about OHA and voting. Since people like me, can vote in this Hawaiian election, it is special. It is important. So that's why I asked John to be with us, because he was I campaigned for John to win CON and every time he's been out there, I campaigned for him.
I guess we got a film. We're going to have a film about the creation of OHA.
Yeah, so what I want to do is show this film about the beginning of OHA so that you see the importance of it and so that you can vote this week. So
intelligently.
Okay, intelligently. I guess. Okay, can we see the film now, Millis?
The Office of Hawaiian Affairs has come into existence, and there is much work ahead of us. Let us unite and get it done. Let us succeed in the task set before us. Long live the Hawaiian people, long live Hawaii, and Malamaka Aina.
We need your prayers. We need your continuing support so the baby may grow. We need your love, most of all.
The 30s, 40s, 50s were dark times. I mean, these were the times when people were forbidden to speak their language, when assimilation was a very important part of the culture. But it doesn't mean that Hawaiians weren't active. In the 50s and the 60s, the only vehicle Hawaiians had to express themselves as Hawaiians was the Hawaiian Civic Club. I remember my dad, when I was growing up, hauling me off to the Civic Club meetings in Waimea so they could talk about how bad Hawaiian Homes was handling the situation up there. The 1970s saw a revival of Hawaiian interest in controlling their own destiny. There was a group called the Hawaiians, and they focused on Hawaiian homes specifically. Why this is important was that they linked up with a gentleman called Sonny Kaniho, who was an outstanding hero of the Hawaiian movement.
Sonny's been waiting this turning line. Sonny's been waiting. Sonny's gonna wait until he dies. How would you work it out and tell me? What would you do? How much would you take if it were you? I don't wanna fight, I don't wanna fight, I don't wanna die, I don't wanna die, I don't wanna live with all the lies. Sonny's been waiting. secretly. Why should he wait until he dies?
The second protest was Hilo Airport. The state had been using Hawaiian homeland without compensation. From that beginning, there were other groups that started up. I remember Alan Ho and a number of other people who were legislative aides, calling those of us that were in the community kind of active in the Hawaiian movement, to come up to the legislature and help Chief Justice Richardson lobby whoever we knew there for the passage of the University of Hawaii Law School. We went there and we did this, and this was in like the early 70s, and all of a sudden the legislature funded it and it's founded. Chief Justice has his dream, he was going to have a place to train Hawaiian lawyers. Even if there were only 6 of us at the law school, 7 when Melody came, and it had this Hawaiian tinge to it because the Chief Justice meant it so. And the Chief Justice was also sending out these decisions that recognize Hawaiian usage and custom and the like.
I clerked for CJ after I completed law school. And during that period, something rather amazing happened, and that was the landing on Kaho'olawe. It really was a step towards self-determination and a Native Hawaiian government.
Kaho'olawe is synonymous to aloha aina. We love the land. And if all us Hawaiians can go over there and touch it, we all come together. The problems are very, very critical. And we want people to look at it because, kama aina means the child of the land, and every one of you that have that Hawaiian blood in you is a child of this land. And you are attached to it, whether you like it or not. And you have that blood running through your veins. The Dick and Jane book's not going to make you proud of what you are. And Kaho'olawe is going to. That's what we intend to do.
I grew up in a period of time where Native Hawaiians wasn't in. It wasn't a glamorous or any kind of positive thing. When it became an issue of justice for people, this is where the politics began. And the Kaho'olawe movement grew out of that lack of justice, lack of protection for cultural resources, and the care and the stewardship of the land.
1975 was the year that I arrived home after some 20-year absence. I get off the plane at Honolulu Airport and I see this poster of a double hull canoe. None of those images existed when I grew up. So I went from not knowing much about the culture, being immersed in a tremendous period of cultural revival and the beginning of a huge renaissance. Through the Kaho'olawe movement, there arose this new political consciousness on the part of Hawaiians. Lots of tension in the air, tension between the general Hawaiian community and the rest of Hawaii. As we were beginning to understand our history, to know that we had something to contribute, and especially to come to the realization that for many years we had been essentially irrelevant.
So all of this is happening between 1970 and 1976, 1977, and all of a sudden the state of Hawaii decides that they're going to have a constitutional convention. And they're going to take the opportunity to rewrite the Hawaii state constitution. And for many of us, we looked up and we said, maybe we should rewrite it in a way that recognized Hawaiian rights, Hawaiian entitlements, and even the quest for Hawaiian self-governance.
Pu'ualu were meetings of all the representatives of Hawaiian organizations throughout the state to discuss issues and solutions. The Ahakau Kanawai was an elected group of representatives from the Pu'ualu meetings, who then put together recommendations that would go to the 1978 Constitution Convention. One of those recommendations was the formation of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Auntie Frenchie ran and became a member, and I did. We got her appointed chairman of the Hawaiian Affairs Committee. She gathered together a lot of the young Hawaiian activists. She brought into her committee as staff members. And then she invited all the various Hawaiian organizations and movements to come in and to present how they saw their piece of the Hawaiian movement. We dealt with the entire spectrum of issues. The issue that remained was the restoration of self-governance. The idea was we would start with a Hawaiian election, establish a Hawaiian entity.
It really was a step towards self-determination and a Native Hawaiian government. And that's how people at CONCON saw it. Like, this is the first step that we can take. They were looking, first of all, at the public land trust, the ceded lands, and the idea in our State Admissions Act that basically says those lands are held for the benefit of, 5 trust purposes, including the betterment of the conditions of Native Hawaiians. And so that was an amazing idea that really a part of the revenue from those lands should go to the Native Hawaiian people. And the other part of it was that Native Hawaiians, in the largest sense of Native Hawaiians, would be able to elect people, trustees, who would direct those funds and who would specifically act on behalf of the Native Hawaiian people. But that it wasn't creating a state agency, it was really beginning the process of self-determination and creating a government for ourselves.
I was told by my staff not to get emotional because some people frown on emotionalism. I just would like to close my remarks by telling you from the bottom of my heart that we have indeed done our homework. And there will be people who will contest the constitutionality of anything we do here in the convention. I ask you with all humility and as a servant of the Hawaiian community to pass this proposal, number 11, for the benefit of my people. Mahalo.
Auntie Frenchie passed every single one of the Hawaiian proposals out of her committee with a unanimous vote.
She would say, we're going kuka, kuka till we kukai. That means nobody leaves the table until there's a resolution. She was perhaps one of the best negotiators I have ever worked with.
So those early years of turmoil and struggle and putting it together starts from that kind of a foundation.
So the opportunity to seek a leadership post through the Office of Hawaiian Affairs really appealed to me. I think we were all on the same page in terms of the long-term vision of someday hoping that we might be able to restore some kind of a Hawaiian nation, self-determination, sovereignty, not quite knowing how we would get there.
Native Hawaiians at the congressional level and working with our congressional delegation, it means we have to be smarter and a little tougher.
The most important thing for us was resources. We needed resources. We had no operating money. The 20%, the ceded land funding thing had not yet been done.
Through our agency status and our ability to raise hard issues, to demand equity based on what the law says that should be given to us, we've been able to extract that repeatedly from the courts that have ruled in our favor.
The momentum moving towards self-government, I think OHA was a strong part of that. Obviously, in 1993, on the 100th anniversary of the overthrow, that was really kind of this defining point where it seemed like just we were about to do it. But it didn't quite take at that point. I think one of the things that happened is the issue of what kind of self-government we were talking about really came to the fore for the Native Hawaiian people. And in 1993, it became really clear that a segment of our community was not interested in federal recognition, that a vocal segment of our community really wanted independence.
We are confronted now not only with the federal recognition, it's the many brands that have surfaced on what is considered Hawaiian Kingdom or a form of sovereignty in Hawaii. And this is where I feel that we need to be able to reach out and build a more unified approach.
When I came in 1990, the portfolio was worth $19 million. Through the efforts of the decisions of the Board of Trustees, when I left in 2002, the portfolio was just over $400 million. It's a profound growth done so primarily with settlements, but also with the good advice that the trustees received over time from money managers that grew the portfolio even during tough times.
And we generate revenues, and we set a policy at our board level that a percentage will be used to give back to the community through grants and services. Annually, we provide close to $14 million that go and service our beneficiaries, either through granted aid or directly with in a program that we have currently as a Malama Loan program.
Throughout the state of Hawaii, throughout the United States, and throughout the international community, Ahapunana Leo and Nawahio Kalaniʻopuʻu have become the model schools of all Native Indigenous people who want to do what they did, which is recapture their language through education. OHA played a very important part in helping to foster the child's growth.
OHA also has been instrumental in kind of financially supporting really important Hawaiian organizations like the Native Hawaiian Eagle Corporation. OHA has provided the support that has allowed NHLC to represent Native Hawaiians from land title cases to water issues to traditional and customary rights to even to bigger issues, Hawaiian homelands.
We went to the university. We've given them monies to continue the education for Hawaiians, and we continue to do that today. We fund all these charter schools, and we pretty much have picked up the slack where the state has not funded. OHA now, with the kinds of funds we do have, we've been able to help our beneficiaries in many, many ways.
I've been able to get a lot done on Hawaii Island with help from OHA through Habitat for Humanity. Habitat has built 11 houses on the Kauai homestead. 1 house in Waimea, 2 more are on the way, 5 homes in 10 days at Laiopua 2020 at Kelakehe, another Hawaiian homestead. OHA deserves tremendous credit for making that possible.
2012 is when the lands of Kaka'ako were approved as settlement to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. The final result is that the amounts of money due to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs has been settled.
Real estate is our only resource that we can could generate income to support programs that would benefit Hawaiians. We got Kaka'ako $200 million. That land, once fully developed, is going to worth nearly $1 billion. In the Gentry project, we're buying 5 acres with building on it. And here's a piece of property that's worth, by tax assessed valuation, $33 million. We bought it for 21. The criteria to buy heritage land, because we want to preserve something like Kukani Loko is there, the birthing stones. So that only occupies about 2 acres, I think. And we bought 500 acres. That has economic opportunities.
The ultimate goal, the ultimate day that we look forward to, is when we can transfer all OHA's assets to a sovereign Hawaiian entity. And not just our monetary assets now, but our trust assets, our land assets, and this whole amazing infrastructure that we've created to serve the beneficiaries with. And that is the day we look forward to, and that is what we strive for.
In order to build a beloved nation, we have to educate. We have to share information about what the critical core issues are, and then how do we involve, how do we encourage our people to become active agents in the political process of change? A nation includes quality access to healthcare, good education that embraces the essence of being Hawaiian and nurturing cultural identity. It's about taking care of those in need who are impoverished, those who are homeless, and finding them adequate services for rehabilitation, as well as the right to safe housing, and mostly the opportunity for social mobility.
The Office of Hawaiian Affairs as an organization, we have evolved and grown. From its inception in 1978 until the present, we have been given birth and life. We have crawled as an infant. We have even learned to walk as a child. Ikeya Manawa. And now it is time we learn to run as advocates for Kanaka Maoli and Native Hawaiian rights. Kukuluho is the strategy that directs OHA to rebuild, to reestablish, and to reaffirm that our rich heritage and culture will flourish for the next 5 generations. I continue to use it to guide us with a vision and a renewed drive to our purpose. By acting on this design to re-erect our inherent dignity as Kanaka Maoli, we move from a state agency and restore our integrity as a Hawaiian institution that embraces the loina, the traditions of our kupuna.
Aloha. Thank you, John. Thank you
That
so
was
much.
fun. That was fun.
Thank you. Now, in a 25 words or less, tell us why it is necessary for us non-Hawaiians to vote.
Well, I
in
think
the
first of all,
OHA election.
Well, first of all, it's important to vote, period, as you were, saying, and it's because it's our chance to express what democracy is all about. But the OHA election is especially important, especially for people of Native Hawaiian ancestry, as well as the entire state of Hawaii, because it's an opportunity for us to actually do something about the cultural foundation of Hawaii. And a lot of people don't realize, and that was what was really interesting about today's film, for me anyway, was going back and seeing all of the people who were involved in the creation of the office. I mean, some, like George Helm, actually gave their lives to save Kahu'olawi. And in a sense, his efforts are expressed in OHA because it's a chance for Native Hawaiians to get together and to reestablish their self-governance, and for the people of Hawaii to participate in that process. So I think everybody should vote. I mean, it's about Hawaiians, but it's also about all of us participating in that solution. And that's what I'm trying to say as concisely as possible.
Well, John, as always, it's a pleasure spending this time with you. And so we have just a few more days before the voting has to be in. You have to have your ballot in the office, in the clerk's office by Saturday, this coming Saturday.
And you know, and people real quickly, people need not to get intimidated by not knowing the names on the ballot. I mean, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your you know, people who you know that are active in the movement, and find out who they think would be a good person to have on the board on the board of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I mean, yeah, we need to all pull together.
Well, yes, we do. And again, thank you so much. We are going to do a talk story with John, of course, on Sunday, and some of the candidates, some of the OHA candidates. So it's a talk story. It's a time to get to know some of the candidates. And that will be on Sunday on Zoom, of course. And again, John, we have run out of time. That's too bad. And
Thanks, Marsha. Thank you for having me.
thank you. And we'll see you soon. See you next time.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha.